Yo, what is good, guys? I went from rookie to plat 1 purely with Unchained, and this is the in-depth card-by-card breakdown on how I did it. If you guys have any questions about the deck profile, make sure to leave them down in the comments below. It's crazy because I could have literally built any deck in this game, but I love this deck too damn much. So, two important things before we get into deck profile that you have to know. Master Duel is a best of one, so you do have to build your deck quite differently than the IRL TCG. And the other thing is, this is a blind going second deck, meaning the entire intent of this build is to be able to break your opponent's board and put them in a simplified game state. If you're fairly new to the game and you don't really know what a simplified game state is, it's when you put yourself in a position in the game when both players are very low on resources and you're trading back and forth with like 2 or 3 cards, right? And the thing is, with Unchained, they're very good at doing this because they have a lot of very good recovery cards like Sarama, like their trap card, which is basically called the Haunted, can bring back any monster. So when you're bringing back your Link 2, you can use that Link 2 to link off with your opponent's monsters, and basically when you trade those resources, you're always going to win. All right, so let's start off with the first card, Maxi. This card is nuts, like absolutely insane. You have to be playing 3 of this. The only difference is there is a big difference between a good player and a bad player by how they utilize Maxi. Sure, you can blindly just toss Maxi as soon as your opponent normal summons, but then they can just pass their turn. And sure, okay, they do risk the possibility of getting OTK'd, but at the same time, you also just went neg 1 and you didn't get anything out of your Maxi. You see, the thing with Unchained is you need a very specific hand in order to OTK, so it's not always guaranteed that if your opponent passes on nothing, that you can OTK them, because you do play a lot of board breakers, so you kind of do want them to build some sort of a board. And that's why you want to use a Maxi when they're starting to commit to a special summon, whether it's by a card effect or whether they special summon a second card from their hand, because that way you know you can at least deplete them of some resources, right? Moving on to the next card, we are playing the One of Ash Blossom. This was kind of like a filler slot in the deck, probably the only filler slot that I had, and it's not that bad at 1 because it does have a lot of utility. It is regarded as one of the best generic hand traps, and the fact that we're playing Maxi means we always have a higher probability of drawing into it. Next, we are maxing out on all 3 of the twins. We are playing 3 Aruha, 3 Rakea, and 3 Sarama. They are just way too good not to play. Some people will argue that they don't really break a board going second. I think that's quite incorrect because there's a lot of things you can do. On normal summon, for example, Rakea can bait out a negate, and if your opponent decides to, I don't know, negate the activation and destroy it, well, then it just triggers in the graveyard, you know what I mean? And if they just have a negate that doesn't destroy it, you can always crash the Rakea into a monster, get this guy, and link off with their monsters, or you can get the bomb, pop a monster, and then beat over another monster. Like, it's just absolutely insane. We are playing the Pankratops. Like I said, we are playing a board breaker build, which means we want to break our opponent's board. Pankratops has a lot of utility. It can get rid of back row, it can get rid of monsters. It is very, very good. Kaiju's absolutely amazing. We are playing the Wind Kaiju because Lureless Tri-Brigade is a deck in this game, and if they summon the Wind Barrier statue, you are going to have a very difficult time without the Kaiju. Another thing is Drytron, very, very popular deck. If you've had the opportunity to play against it, you would know that Herald is a very difficult card to play around if you don't have a Kaiju or something like a Forbidden Droplets. Next, the One Disaster. I draw this card way too damn much. We have 2 Abom, 2 Nibiru, because we do want some variety in the cards that we're playing. So unfortunately, you do have to play 2 of some of the cards that you run. We are playing the 3 Extravagance. This card synergizes really well with this deck because, yeah, so you do rely on your extra deck from time to time. But at the same time, this deck is also amazing without its extra deck. You can absolutely win a game without going into the extra deck a single time. So that's absolutely amazing. We are playing the 3 Abominations Prison. This searches for any of your Unchained cards, including your traps. And then we have the 1 Pot of Prosperity. So the reason for this is I did find myself having some consistency issues, and the thing is, with a best of 3 game, yeah, that'll happen from time to time, but you'll bounce back in the other 2 games. In a best of 1, consistency becomes a lot more important, so I did opt for the extra pot here. We are playing the 1 Cosmic Cycle, and like I said, this is a best of 1. People are going to be running around with back row decks, and it's better to have an out in your deck than to have none whatsoever. We are playing the 2 Forbidden Droplet. I played around with a lot of things. I played around playing a Gamma package even with 2 Gammas. I played around with Dark Ruler no more, but I found one of the best cards to play with was Forbidden Droppa, just because of the cards like Herald and other cards like VFD. And the thing was, with Droppa, you can pitch one of your traps, and then your opponent can't respond with Shuche to pop the VFD in order to, you know, dodge the effect negation. And when you pitch your trap, you can normal summon Sarama, target a trap, set the trap, pop the trap, and then you can just go off, and that's absolutely insane. We are playing the 2 evenly matched. Like I said earlier, you are going to have to play some wonky ratios. Not every single card is going to be a 3 of in this deck. And with Max T, you always have the increased opportunity to draw this card, which is absolutely great. I think this card is really, really good because there are a lot of times where your opponent won't end on a spell or trap negation, and you can hard punish them by going into battle phase and activating evenly matched. Also, Eldritch is a very popular deck in this format, and decks like True Draco are extremely cheap to build, so, you know, evenly matched becomes a very, very important card. We are maxing out on both of the Unchained traps. The Escape of the Unchained, if you don't know what this one is, this one basically trades an Unchained monster for 1 card your opponent controls, and the fact that your Unchained monster is destroyed means it triggers an effect, which is great. And this is the Abominable Chamber of the Unchained, which is basically like a Call of the Haunted, which you can actually outplay your opponent a lot with this. For example, if they remove your Unchained Soul of Rage at a point in time where you don't find it worth it to use the effect, it's okay, because you can have this set activated, bring back your Link 2 monster, and then link off with the monster that you do want to get rid of. Moving on to the extra deck, Dingirsu, a card where in the real life TCG doesn't come up too frequently. Actually, a lot of people choose not to even play it, but in this game I found myself wanting to play 2 copies. It just absolutely crazy how much better it is in Master Duel in a best of 1 than it is in real life. I did lose quite a few games from not having the second copy, but I got really greedy and I didn't want to spend my gems on them. But yeah, honestly, if I could, I think I probably would run 2 of Dingirsu. This is probably the only extra deck change I would make in the future. But yeah, Dingirsu has been very, very good in this format. We are playing the 3 Unchained Soul of Rage because we are running Pot of Extravagance. This card is very important to have in your extra deck if you can keep it there. We're playing the Triple Burst Dragon. This card has an effect that not a lot of people realize. It can negate stuff in the damage step. So if you are playing against something like Sky Strikers, you can negate the activation of Sky Striker Ace Array, which, you know, not a lot of cards can actually do except for like Ghost Bell and Haunted Mansion. Then we are playing the Nightmare Unicorn. Important to note that it is a dark, which means you can link into it with the Unchained Soul of Rage, meaning you have 2 interruptions. You link off with one of your opponent's monsters, and then you spin something from their field back to their deck. We are playing the Decode Talker Extended. This is a very underrated utility card in the extra deck that not a lot of people play. So it gains 500 attack for each monster it points to. During your battle phase, if a monster this card points to is destroyed by battle or sent to the graveyard, this card can make a second attack during each battle phase this turn. Which means if you have a Rakea under it and another Sarama or like another Unchained card, you can pop that card, float into another monster. This guy will have 3300 attack and can attack twice. Sometimes in Unchained you are just very, very short of doing an OTK, and I feel like Decode Talker Extended really puts you in a situation where you can do that much easier. Next, we are playing the 3 Unchained Soul of Anguish. This card is insane. This opens up your access code lines. You absolutely have to play 3 of this. We are playing the 1 Zeraboros just to have an extra utility slot in our extra deck. Zeraboros can be a very powerful card, and while it hasn't really come up for me much, I don't think I'd take it out of the extra deck unless maybe for the second Dingirsu. Next, we are playing the Unchained Abomination, and if you're wondering why are you playing 3 of all the other Unchained cards and not this one, well, yeah, this one is decent because you can destroy a lot of cards with this on your turn and during your opponent's end phase. But the unfortunate downside is, unlike Unchained Soul of Rage and Anguish, when this one is destroyed by battle or card effect, you don't really get anything out of it, where with these 2, if they get destroyed by battle or card effect, you get to add back a Fiend from your graveyard back to your hand, which is just absolutely amazing, because if you're adding back Sarama every single time, you're just gonna have follow-up for the next turn every single time as well, right? So this card just is not as good. This is another possible card that you can cut to 1, if anything, for the second Dingirsu, or like for whatever card you want to put in your extra deck. And then finally, we are playing the 2 copies of Access Code Talker. This card is way too good. You have to play 2 of this card, because if you banish it off of your Extravagance, you're getting rid of a win condition in your deck. This card is just too strong when you can use one of your opponent's opponent's monsters and link it off with Anguish, and then go straight into an Axis Code Talker, target the Anguish, gain 3000 attack, get a pop, and then have a 5300 attack monster to hit your opponent with. Like, the card is just way too good not to use. So yeah guys, this is the Unchained profile that I took from rookie to plat 1 all the way, no BS, never switched it out for any other deck. I hope you guys enjoyed the deck profile. Thank you so much for watching. This is Bear signing off. Peace guys.